Hi everyone, welcome back for another episode of Adams for the Love of Movie Picks. Sorry about last week there, folks. I was away on vacation, but we're back, and this one I got a treat for you. So this time we're going to be talking about the 2020-2021 Netflix series Transformers: War for Cybertron. Now, until just until I was getting ready to do this video, I didn't realize how long this series had been out. I thought it was maybe end of last year or beginning of this year, but it was end of 2020, beginning of 2021. It was split into 3 parts. So they released it starting in 2020, and then the final part got released in 2021. Each part was 6 episodes. So we had Transformers War. It's all called Transformers War for Cybertron, but the first one was called Siege. The second one was called Earthrise, and the third and final part was called Kingdom. So obviously it's based somewhat off of the original Transformers series which was released in 1984, and also takes some parts from the Transformers Beast Wars series in the 1990s. So what I love about this now, the reason why I'm just doing this now, sorry, before I get too much into this, when this initially came out, I just wanted to enjoy it. I just wanted to watch it. I didn't really want to do a video on it, and to be honest with you, I hadn't quite started my videos in 2020. It didn't really start until 2021, and I just kind of wanted to enjoy the series. But I just finished rewatching it for a second time, and now I want to discuss it. So, as you guys know, I'm a big fan of Transformers. I've done the Transformers the movie, one of my favorite movies, not just animated movies, period. And then also I've done the Transformers Beast Wars series. So, what I like about Transformers War for Cybertron is, if there is such a thing as an adult Transformers. There have been moments in both the Transformers, the movie, the original Transformers, and Beast Wars, where there were some adult themes. There was a bit of language, there was a little bit of violence, there was the odd Transformer that died here or there. But to me, this is a darker Transformers. This one is almost like a Japanese manga kind of Transformers. Like, there's no sexuality or anything like that, but like the violence is more realistic. Like, that was one of the things, I love the original Transformers series from the 1980s, but one of the things that drove me nuts is, like, the robots firing lasers at each other, and, like, a guy would get hit, and then, like, 2 seconds later, he's fine. Like, there's nothing going on. It's like, it's like a stun laser. Whereas this is, like, when they get shot. Like, they're bleeding fluids, and they're dying, and, it's more realistic, in my opinion. There's some swearing going on in this. So, to me, it's just kind of got a darker tone to it. It loosely bases off the Transformers, the original series. The reason why they ended up on Earth is, there's a war on Cybertron between Megatron and the Autobots. Well, Megatron and the Decepticons, and Prime and the Autobots, that spills over and carries over to Earth. And, after they crash land on Earth, they're basically in stasis for millions of years until they get awoken in the year 1984 by the volcano becoming active that they've crash landed into. So this one's the same idea, except instead of, like, they leave and crash land on Earth and they're in stasis and yada yada yada, it completely takes the human element out of the equation. So, like I said, it starts off with part 1, which is Siege. Basically, for the most part, primarily takes place on Cybertron. Megatron is basically more or less taking over Cybertron. The Autobots are leading a resistance and trying to survive and fight back. The Energon reserves in Cybertron are becoming depleted. They're becoming harder and harder to find, and they're barely hanging on as it is. And so eventually, Prime learns that the Allspark, Megatron plans to use the Allspark to wipe out the Autobot resistance once and for all. So Prime, through what was thought to be a derelict space bridge, launches the Allspark through the space bridge, and then eventually it ends up on Earth. The space bridge is subsequently destroyed. And then in Earthrise, it's basically their journey from Cybertron to Earth via the Ark, because Prime realizes the mistake that he made, that he shouldn't have removed the Allspark from Cybertron. It needs to be brought back to Cybertron, and they leave. It's basically their travels from Cybertron to Earth via a different space bridge and the dead universe. And also, they run into one of their Quintesson, because anybody who knows the original Transformers series knows that the Quintessons were the creators of the Transformers, both the Autobots and the Decepticons. They run into a Quintesson in their journey to get to Earth. And then my favorite part of this series is Kingdom. So for me, like one of the things that I loved about the Beast Wars series is that it briefly connected with the original 1980s Transformers series. There's a part at the end of, I think it's season 3, where they discover the original, because they're basically the Maximals and Predacons have crash landed on prehistoric Earth. They've discovered that the Autobot, the Ark, the shuttle containing both the Autobots and the Decepticons in stasis, because they're in prehistoric Earth, but they're all in stasis. So as cool as that was that they see that and they interact and they upgrade their own characters through various methods and what have you, you never actually see the two of them actually interact. Well, in Kingdom, basically after traveling through the dead universe and ending up eventually on prehistoric Earth, also by the way in Earthrise, Megatron in the Decepticon ship, the Nemesis that he's created, follows Prime, tracks Prime through space, and they both end up on Earth. But so when they crash land on Earth this time, it's set differently. So instead of they're all like the Decepticons and the Autobots are in the shuttles, in the Autobot shuttle, or the Ark, I should say, not the shuttle, the Ark, all together in stasis. It's just the Autobots are in the Ark, the Decepticons are in the Nemesis, and they're all fully awake. And the two timelines intersect. So you've got the Maximals and the Predacons fully interacting with the original Gen 1 Transformers. It is so cool. I love it. It's such an interesting concept. And they're made more, like, even though they're meant to still look like animals, and they take on a more serious tone, each of the Maximal characters and the Predacon characters. I felt like they did more with the Maximal characters and the Predacon characters, like more in depth of who the characters are and the way they factor in. You've got obviously Optimus Primal, Tigatron, Cheetor, Air Razor, Rat Trap, and Rhinox. And they factored in a little bit more. The only really main Predacon character that factored in was, there's 3. There was obviously the Megatron, Predacon Megatron, Dinobot, and Black Arachnia. I felt like you see Scorponok here or there for a little bit, but he doesn't really factor in it like they did. You don't see Pterosaur or Waspinator or Tarantulas all that much, which I think could have added to it, but I digress. It was still really cool to see the two stories intersecting. They even did an homage to one of the best episodes from the original Beast Wars series. I believe I touched on it when I talked about the Beast Wars series. It was called Code of Hero, I think was the episode. And in it, Dinobot single-handedly takes on the entire Predacon army to defend a valley that has the ancestors of humanity. And they did a similar episode in this Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom, where he takes on both Megatrons in order to steal the golden disc away from Megatron, and as well get the golden disc. It was the Matrix of Leadership he stole away from Megatron to return it to Optimus Prime. And they even did the old because in this series, Dinobot never defected to the Maximals. He was full Predacon right from when he's introduced to the very end to when he dies. And, so he didn't have that kind of connection per se to the Maximals, but they still did the whole thing, because in the Beast Wars series, him and Rat Trap have a real connection. Even though they seem to hate each other, they actually have a real connection with each other. So they did there was a whole, close, cheerful goodbye scene in Code of Hero. They did a similar thing with Rat Trap and Dinobot in this, even though it wasn't quite as emotional as Connectful. It was still cool that they did an homage to that. What I also liked, which was neat, is they tied in elements from the movie and the original series as well with Unicron and also Galvatron. That was something that was interesting. You basically could say they had 3 Megatrons in the same series. Because the original Megatron eventually becomes Galvatron. Then you had the Predacon Megatron, as well as the actual Megatron himself. So to have them all together was really cool. And then also you had Nemesis Prime factoring into it at the end as well. So overall, great series. If you're a fan of Transformers and you didn't happen to see this series yet, check it out. Maybe you're like me, you've seen it and you loved it so much you want to watch it again. It's nice because unlike the original series, which went for like 5 seasons and it was a lot of episodes, I mean, even the Beast Wars was 3 seasons and quite a few episodes. This one is, like I said, each part is 6 episodes, so it's only 18 episodes. So, I mean, if you're binge watching, you could probably watch all of these in a weekend. They're only about 20-30 minutes an episode, so it's really easily watchable. But yeah, highly recommend it. Check it out. You will not be disappointed. It's still on Netflix. Hopefully, they don't do the classic Netflix thing and pull it anytime soon, because it's not being watched anymore. But yeah, Transformers War for Cybertron. 2 thumbs up in my opinion. You will not be disappointed, folks. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next week for another episode.